On the day President Trump promised to deliver Fake News Awards, 2 Republican senators as well as several Democrats warned on Wednesday that his unceasing attacks on a free press are undermining a fundamental tenet of democracy and emboldening despots abroad. Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, who has emerged as one of Trump's fiercest Republican critics, delivered an impassioned speech from the Senate floor, comparing Trump's anti-press rhetoric to that of the murderous Soviet dictator Josef Stalin and calling on his colleagues to speak out against Trump's shameful, repulsive statements. Recalling Trump's first year in office, Flake said, 2017 was a year which saw the truth, objective, empirical, evidence-based truth, more battered and abused than at any time in the history of our country, at the hands of the most powerful figure in our government. Democratic Senators Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota and Dick Durbin of Illinois also spoke out against Trump's rhetoric, echoing Flake's accusation that Trump is trying to upend the distinction between objective truth and lying. The bipartisan rebukes of the president marked another seminal moment in the Trump era, which has come to be defined by his routine challenges to political norms and traditions. It is common for lawmakers to criticize presidents on policy, but less so for members of their own party, and yet exceedingly rare for any of them to fault a president's fealty to basic democratic values. When a figure in power reflexively calls any press that doesn't suit him fake news, it is that person who should be the figure of suspicion, not the press, Flake added. Flake's comments were buttressed by his fellow Arizona Republican, Senator John McCain, who warned in an opinion piece in the Washington Post that Trump's efforts to undermine the press are being closely watched by foreign leaders who are already using his words as cover as they silence and shutter one of the key pillars of democracy. Both men made the point that Trump has stood on its head the United States' traditional role as an example to the world of press freedom. Governments and autocrats, in Singapore, Myanmar, Venezuela, Libya, Egypt, and Turkey, among others, have cited Trump's fake news theme in acting against press criticism in their countries. The pushback in the Senate came even as White House advisors, who have been noticeably uncomfortable when asked about Trump's awards plans, could not say early Wednesday, the day Trump set after one postponement, how the president would follow up on his 2-week-old promise. "We'll keep you guys posted. It'll be something later today," White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders told reporters Wednesday. "I know you're all waiting to see if you are big winners." Sanders accused Flake, who is not running for re-election, of seeking attention. She also accused him of hypocrisy because he visited Cuba, which has jailed journalists, and served as a mouthpiece for the oppressive Cuban government. "Certainly, I think our position here at the White House is that we welcome access to the media every day," she said, standing in the briefing room. "I'm standing right here, taking questions. The president does so regularly." At midday on Fox News, Deputy Press Secretary Raj Shah told viewers to stay tuned for a later announcement. On Tuesday, Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders had told reporters that she would keep you posted on any details around the potential event. Trump tweeted on January 2 that he would announce the most dishonest and corrupt media awards of the year at 5 p.m. on January 8. He later wrote on Twitter that the awards would be presented to the losers on Wednesday, January 17. His public schedule for the day, released Tuesday night, made no mention of any such event. The president has used the term fake news on his Twitter feed at least 167 times since being elected, according to a search in an online archive, most often to disparage reporting about him or his administration. The attacks on the media have been an effective political tool since during his campaign, rallying supporters and insulating him, to some extent, from unflattering reporting. Fake news initially referred to hoax stories believed to be planted by Russian operatives in an attempt to influence the presidential election. Trump coopted the term to disparage legitimate reporting. Trump, who once last year called the press the enemy of the people, recently threatened to seek harsher libel laws and revoke networks' broadcast licenses, areas where his powers are limited. Members of his administration have spoken similarly about the media, complaining that reporters have lowered their standards to undermine Trump's legitimacy. There's a very big difference between making honest mistakes and purposefully misleading the American people, something that happens regularly, Sanders told reporters in December. You can't say that it's an honest mistake when you are purposely putting out information that you know to be false, or when you're taking information that hasn't been validated, that hasn't been offered any credibility, and that has been continually denied by a number of people, including people with direct knowledge of an incident. Flake and McCain took issue with such talk from the president and his aides, focusing on the dangers not just to the United States but internationally. Flake, in his speech, pointed to a report by the Committee to Protect Journalists noting that 21 of 262 journalists imprisoned in 2017 were charged with false news. He read accounts of Syrian President Bashar Assad dismissing an Amnesty International report of 13,000 deaths in his military prisons as fake news, and of Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte, whose government has been implicated in thousands of extrajudicial killings, calling reporters spies, while Trump laughed beside him during a meeting in November. McCain wrote that the Trump administration's attitude toward foreign governments' efforts to suppress journalists through violence, legal measures and fines was inconsistent at best and hypocritical at worst. While administration officials often condemn violence against reporters abroad, Trump continues his unrelenting attacks on the integrity of American journalists and news outlets, he wrote. This has provided cover for repressive regimes to follow suit. The phrase fake news, granted legitimacy by an American president, is being used by autocrats to silence reporters, undermine political opponents, stave off media scrutiny and mislead citizens, McCain said.